Welcome to the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and the Mike Crook Show with our host, Mike Crook. Mike, I'm biohacking like crazy, right? It's getting springtime. Finally, it's beautiful in Ohio. And I want to continue to have that energy, longevity, my brain moving. And this is what you've been able to put on this podcast are these experts that are really gearing me up for the summer and gearing me up to continue to reverse aging. I can't wait for this conversation.
Yeah, most people don't know that you actually do have warm weather in Ohio, Michigan, and up in those areas, because it's always cold. But you do have a little bit of summer, and it gets extremely hot up there during that summer. But anyways, off of that subject and on to biohacking. So today we have back with us our guest from a previous show that you want to get on and watch, where we covered a lot of things. We'll kind of hit the highlights, but Stuart Tomc and Michael Lewis, Dr. Michael Lewis, got some fundamental stuff that's just blow your mind things. We're going to get into how omega-3 blood levels support brain health, what you need to be doing, and why testing is the future of supplementation, because that's what this company is doing with it. We represent different companies, and there's no doubt about it. We're telling people, here's a link, you can buy it from us. It's that's where our revenue stream is. But we don't have our heads in the sand and just looking at one company, because one company is not going to provide every answer for it. And doctors do the same thing. They're looking for solutions for their patients that are from wherever they come from. And in the world of natural solutions, not every company is going to have that solution for them. So we're back welcoming them to the program, and we're going to dive deeper into this brain health idea and what Zenzino is doing about it, and covering that. And as always, we're going to have links down below it after the show, down there to connect up and get some of these things, get the tests. If you want to test, we're offering the test for free. You just come in, just say I want to test. You can test and see that you're going to fail, that your blood is not going to show that you're in balance. But we're going to cover those things over again so we can kind of hit them. So, Stuart, hit us first with what is this idea of balance and why testing is important, and then we'll launch into a little more some of these new studies and some other details that we can get into. Fire away.
Well, my excuse me, my favorite explanation of this, we call it the Omega hands. Excuse me, for brand new people that have never heard this before. For they've never heard it before, I call it the Omega hands. It goes like this. This is your left fist. It's omega-6. Where do omega-6s come from? Seeds, nuts, and animal products. Your body doesn't make it. It's essential. It's largely pro-inflammatory. Hold up your right fist. Is omega-3. It is essential. It comes from green leafy vegetables, fish, and algae. And we want a balance between pro-inflammatory omega-6, anti-inflammatory omega-3 inside of Mike Crook, inside of Neil, the media giant, inside of Dr. Michael Lewis. The tissue is the issue. We want a balance in every single cell of the body. And this number is emerging arguably as the most important number for health and longevity that you don't know, that you will know. And I've learned this primarily from our other guest today, Dr. Michael Lewis, who was the spokesperson, the medical tip of the spear, as I like to call him, from Nordic Naturals, which is where I got to meet him. So many, many years ago. Go ahead, Mike.
So instead of just simply supplementing, okay, I got to go get some supplements, and I need to get omegas, and so I'm going to just take this fish oil off here. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have any results. I mean, a long time ago, we did some tests for some anti-aging. Won't get into that, but we had a company that specifically did blood tests for our doctors, and would come back and show what all of their levels of different nutrients were within the body. Okay. Well, now you've got a report the doctor can look at, and he can supplement towards that report and say, this is what you need to do. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark, right?
Exactly. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. The total addressable market for omega-3 is billions of dollars. It's fragmented. There's 2 FDA-approved drugs in America based on omega-3, 1 in Japan, 3,000 brands. They all say they're the best. Nordic Natural says, trust me, we make the world's safest, most effective omega-3 products. The company we're working with today says, trust but verify.
Yeah.
Test first, because 97% of people that take the test, including me, including Dr. Lewis, failed the test.
Yep.
And that's why we're back on your show.
And we're out of balance. So Fire away, Dr. Lewis. So tell us about some of the research that's been done, some of the new research, or if it's Stuart, whoever wants to hit the subject, on how this is linked, how not having this balance and correcting your body is linked to early onset dementia and the things that are happening with that.
Well, it's not exactly new science. This has been going, for probably a good 25 years or so. We're just now listening to it and maybe just hearing it for like it's brand new. But Artemis Simopoulos is an endocrinologist originally from Greece, lives in Washington, D.C. And she sent a paper to the White House last year, about a year ago, saying that this omega-6 to 3 ratio is so important and that our food supply is basically destroying us as a society. And if we don't do something, we've hit a tipping point. If we don't do something about it, it may be too late. And, it goes back 25 years of the research that she's published and showing that a higher omega-6 amount compared to your omega-3s and that ratio correlates to a 70% greater risk of dying. And she looked at all-cause mortality, cardiovascular mortality, and other things. So we really came like two big waves, if you will. There was the whole heart health thing that came out of the Inuit diets in Greenland with Danish researchers starting back in the 70s. And it's kind of carried up through to where we've got two drugs that are approved in the United States for it. But the second wave is this brain health concept, and that is really just starting to happen. And so, I published a study, for example, active duty military. We saw a 62% greater risk of suicide in active duty military with low omega-3 levels. So we see it in major depressive disorder, anxiety, name a brain health situation, and we could probably point you to a dozen or more studies that show that there's a correlation with omega-3 levels. But we got to move from correlation to causation, right? So that's
Mhm.
what the studies need to be happening now.
So, um, getting back into the balance world here, and testing and that whole idea and that whole concept of it, why is Zenzino taking a different approach? Why is their product and their testing that key to getting this, this level, getting your brain health back in order? Why is this the key that nobody else is doing? What is the thing about it that's getting there? What is it testing? Go back over that with us if you don't mind.
Yeah, we're taking a direct consumer. I call it kitchen table medicine, right? So you could be sitting at your kitchen table, you get these tests in the mail, sit at your kitchen table, prick your finger, put on a couple of drops of blood on a filter paper, package it up, put it in an envelope, send it off, make sure you register it online, make sure you take a picture of the card because it's an anonymous um, blood test. So if you don't have that 10-digit number, you're going to lose that test forever. But you mail it in, and 2 weeks later you get results, and most people are going to get a big red box saying, "Boom, you are out of balance." But the other part of the kitchen table medicine is, what are you going to do about it? And so same place, you go online, you order it, or maybe it came with the test. Is you've got a balanced test to see what your omega-6 to 3 balance is, but then the antidote is balance oil. And so these are kitchen table medicine. They show up at your front door, right? So you're not having to go to your doctor. You're not having to get a prescription. You're not having to get orders. You don't have to go to LabCorp or Quest and get your blood drawn. You do it right there at your kitchen table. I call it the democratization of testing.
Right.
So you're not trying to figure out how much nuts and berries and things I need to consume to get there, or how much supplementation I need to take. Zenzino's got a system in place where they're going to test you first. Then you start supplementing, or start supplementing while the test is going off to be tested.
Right. Why
And,
wait, right?
yeah, why wait? And so then you're supplementing, and then as your test comes back, you see you failed, then you retest to know where you are. How far off do you take your retest? How far off do you go?
Well, Zinzino is so confident that we can get 95% or more people back into balance after 4 months, 120 days. They send you a second test after the fourth month. They send you a second test for free so that you can do it and prove to yourself that what you're doing is working, right? It's just the natural human behavior. You're reinforcing good behavior. You had a test, make up numbers. You're 15 to 1 out of balance, omega-6 to 3s. And you do 4 months of balance oil every day, a little shot glass of 10 to 15 milliliters of oil, or a couple or 2 or 3 capsules. And after 4 months, boom, you get back, you're 3 to 1, 2 to 1, something like that. 95% of people we know will hit that level. And why 4 months? Because that's the average lifespan of a red blood cell. So we're testing red blood cells, we're impacting red blood cells, but we're not impacting the 80 day old red blood cell. That's an old dog. It's not going to learn new tricks. What we're impacting is the new red blood cells being made by the body, coming online at the right ratio so that they're flexible. They carry oxygen better. They can squeeze through the capillaries easier because of that flexibility. It just can make all the difference in the world, not just in your mental health, but also your cardiovascular health, your immune health, your gut health. It really is a broad spectrum health, the healthiest thing you can do.
So if you're going to your doctor's not going to order this test for you. It's not going to be something normally in their panel of tests because they're ignorant of this as well, and so they're not looking for this balance for you. They don't have the supplements there for you to use unless they're one of our doctors that are on board with us. They're lacking, the tools for you to get to where you need to go. So instead of going through that process and being frustrated, you just need to get from Zinzino the test and the package, start supplementing towards it, and then getting yourself healthy along the way, because it's just not going to happen the other place. Plus, if you're thinking insurance is going to pay for this, it's not going to ever going to pay for a test that's going to balance you out. It should, but it's not.
You could try to convince your doctor, put it on the, when you're getting your cholesterol checked and stuff like that, and you could try to convince your doctor. But my understanding is LabCorp and Quest are no longer even doing these tests.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so really can only get it through specialty labs, and there's only 3 or 4 of them in the world that even do this.
So
Why
here's
do you think that is? So I want to ask the question, Michael, Dr. Michael, why is that?
I think because, well, from a LabCorp Quest perspective, they're doing a fatty acid panel, so they're measuring 11 to 15 fatty acids, and they're just giving you the results with no interpretation. And so that's where Zinzino and the 2 or 3 other companies make a big difference. They're giving you the interpretation. What does this mean that your 6 to 3 ratio is out of balance? What can you do about it? Here's a guideline in the full 26-page report. Like, how can you change your diet in addition to supplementation to make a difference? And what is the importance of making a difference?
And I brought an example.
We're getting any of that interpretation from LabCorp or Quest.
And I brought an example to show today that I sent over to Mike early this morning. I'm not going to show a full science paper today. This is an article in Nutrition Insights. I have it up on the screen. Everybody can read this. I find these papers and I send them to Dr. Lewis in the middle of the night. Higher omega-3 blood levels linked to reduced early onset dementia risk despite genetics. This is a big one. Now look at this. I'm going to blow it up a little bit. New research links higher blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids to a 35 to 40% lower risk of early onset dementia, regardless of an individual's genetic predisposition. Wow. And look at this. Achieving an omega-3 index. That's the other number you get from our test. That's the percentage of EPA and DHA in the red blood cell. It needs to be 8%. Now, if you read this article,
Wow.
it tells you, listen to this, Neil, if you ate 1 can of sardines a day, every day, you'd achieve 8% in your blood. This makes it a true dietary supplement. A supplement supplements the diet. You see why I get so animated?
Yeah.
All we want is you to have 8%. Now, I used to eat these every day, and I'll tell you, and I still failed the test.
Wow.
I ate a can of sardines every day, right, Mike? Wasn't I the original sardine guy? And I failed the test. So that's why I want everyone, all you do is prick your finger. I'm a chicken. If I can do it, Mike, you did it too, right?
Yes.
No problem.
Yes,
Prick
no
your
problem.
finger, you put 2 drops
Just a little bit of
on.
blood, drop of blood. It didn't even hurt. So I've had, this is just again one of my own reasons why I biohack. I have 2 parents who had dementia as they aged in their late 70s, early 80s. I have a brother who had a encephalitis experience, so his brain swelled, but got back to a fairly new norm, still short-term memory issues, but then diagnosed with dementia as well, and I'm battling with that. His gait looks horrible. He can't walk normal. He can't remember anything. It's a pitiful existence, and I don't want to ever be there. And so I'm thinking. So my question is that is it a reality? I mean, obviously with 2 parents and then a brother who had it, there's a reality that there's something genetic going on there. But is there also the possibility that I can avoid that through supplementation, through taking the right and getting myself in balance and keeping my brain healthy? Is that a possibility? Because I know our audience is asking the same question. I just got real life dealing with it. I lost you. Can't hear you.
Real quick before the doctor answers, if you
Okay.
look at this paper again, it says irrespective of genetic predisposition, regardless of an individual's genetic predisposition. Now, Dr. Lewis, if you can address this too, how you were at that conference in Washington, D.C., you called me and told me about that this is the most modifiable risk factor of anything within our control. Can you please share a little bit about that?
So I was at an invitation-only conference talking about seafood and omega-3s, and literally the world's leading experts. There's only maybe 15 to 20 people in this invitation only. And one of the researchers presented the data and I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say 80% of our entire existence we cannot control as far as our risk factor for death. You cannot control age, race, and gender. And that's like 80% right there. The 20% remaining, what are you looking at? Things that you can modify, smoking, drug use, alcohol use, and so on. Out of all those potential risk factors, we always think, well, quit smoking is the biggest risk factor you can stop doing that will put odds in your favor. But it turns out that your omega-3 index, the amount of omega-3s you have in your blood, is even more important than even quit smoking. It's a great risk factor. With low omega-3 levels are a greater risk factor than if you smoke.
When do you think this is going to get more well known, Dr. Michael, especially for doctors, practitioners, to understand this how important this is to look at as a factor and how to improve?
Well, off camera, you and I and the group of us here have been talking a lot about AI, and I think that that's going to accelerate our knowledge and our ability of doctors to do more for their patients if they embrace AI to help them be better doctors. It's not replacing doctors; it should be helping people become better doctors. And so I think that we're going to see, I mean, it's been, a 50 to 70-year journey to this point when, well, it's been a 50-year journey, as far as the heart health, and we're still not completely accepting of this. It's going to take more studies, more evidence. I say you got to have the top-down approach as well as the bottom-up approach. I call it the mothers against drunk driving approach, where moms can change the world. And when moms, I say I'd rather get published in People magazine than the New England Journal of Medicine, because way more people are going to read it and pay attention to it and actually do it. And so that's probably what we need to do. We need to be targeting the populist type of approach, that bottom up approach. But at the same time, you need the top down approach, and the top down approach is really based on research. So we need the mothers against Omega driving. I don't know, whatever. Well, I
It's
think
going to
Three
be the
deficiency, the
biggest
mothers
thing
against
is
the
the
they could
PR.
get you for that one or something. And we need that bottom up approach, and while the science catches up, and one can drive the other.
Mike, from what you've been learning so far, because you work with lots of practitioners, that's your expertise, is to really educate practitioners on new health strategies to improve for their patients. What have you seen when you bring this up to doctors, Mike?
This Mike. Okay. So it's new news to them, and in their mindset, whenever I approach them about implementing some solution in their practice, they can't wrap their head around that. So I always talk about how we automate patient education, how we go through a lot of this stuff. I mean, you picture you come into a doctor's office, you're going to be waiting in the outside room first, and then of course you register that I'm here for to see him at this time, and then 15, 20 minutes later they come get you, they take you to the exam room, and then somebody comes in and asks why you're here. Well, all of that time, instead of reading golf magazines and stuff like that, needs to be patient education. And now with the systems and the ways things are, we just put an iPad in their hands and just say, here, Dr. Smith wants you to watch this before he sees you as his patient. And so you just sit there and watch it. Now, usually we give that to them in the exam room so that they get there. And I tell the doctor, you're not going to have to educate. You're going to need to know, and you're going to need to put your blessings on this, but you have got to allow patient education. Videos in the outdoor waiting room are great. Posters, all that sort of stuff. They've got to be told that they're not going to be the ones doing this, or they're just not receptive at all, because they're bound by having to put all this stuff in on record. They've got to maintain these records for the patients. That's a big nuisance to them. It's just as I've got to put this in the computer. It's all got to be computerized now, and that AI is helping with that to some degree, and automating some of that. But they're just bound by, I've got so limited time with the patient, and the doctor really wants to do what he was there for, is to be a doctor. And so when I'm saying you need to sell this to them, it's there. They're excited about it being another ancillary source of income, which would be interesting to have maybe in another podcast. I don't know how much time we got left here, but it is an additional source of income. I mean, a doctor in practice, if we happen to have somebody that works in a doctor's practice who's watching us today, can make 40, 50, $60,000 a month in additional revenue by just simply having these available in their practice and educating their patients on them. It's just, if they'll educate and then have a systemized way of the patient checking out and purchasing, and then setting it all up automatically to be shipped, because nobody wants the patient coming back to get a refill. It just doesn't work well that way. It's like if a doctor was told, I've got to provide prescription refills in my office, they go, no, I'm not prescribing any other medicine, because it just would be a nuisance. But we've got to have these things systemized for them to even be receptive to do it. So yeah, they're receptive to the idea of what it does, but they're not receptive to the idea of being the purveyor of that information when people are coming in for sickness. Now, if you've got a doctor who is a wellness doctor, different receptivity, and it's there. But even your world of chiropractors, who we think of as just general wellness doctors, they're not receptive to adding, and they don't know how to sell. None of them know how to sell. So you got to teach them how to sell this to their patients. It's just a whole quagmire that it requires almost a specialty in to understand what they're looking for when you come into their office. Am I making sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. No,
But
I
no,
think it. I think it's just. I'm just intrigued. So I've heard of. So this is where I'm going to ask Stuart because you've been involved in the vitamin world, correct? Talking about the vitamins I currently take, which I some sort of men's health vitamins. I'm going to be changing. Don't worry. At least I'm taking my vitamins. Before that wasn't even happening. That's on my regular course. Omega, you hear of omega vitamin, the omega-3 vitamins, but why we have not talked about omega levels? That's I'm still trying to wrap my head around. We're hearing omega-3 getting the omega vitamins all the time, but really not this conversation.
well, here's my answer, and I learned some of this from Dr. Lewis. But Semmelweis, was that his name, Dr. Lewis, the guy that said you should wash your hands? Told everybody you should wash your hands right after you use the toilet, before you birth the baby, wash your hands. That guy committed suicide.
Yeah.
He committed suicide, went to an asylum. Okay. This test is 20 years old. Neil, I hope that answers your question. It's 20 years old, this test. We're right at the point, the tipping point of people going from take omega-3 to what is your blood level. We're right there. It's happening right now. The paper I just showed you identified 8%. And so that's what we're living through right now. We are barely at trend. What do I mean by that? We've tested 0.025% of like the United States of America, maybe even less. You know, with the Oura rings and with intermittent fasting and all the biohacking stuff, far infrared saunas, it reaches a tipping point at about 2.5% of adoption. We're not quite there yet. That's why Dr. Lewis said we're going to test 1 million people under him alone. Every person that tests get us closer to this being standard of care. That's why I don't care how early it is out here in California, Mike. Anytime you're going to have me on, I don't care what time it is. Okay. The frog's out of my throat.
At least you don't live in Hawaii. You'd be 8 hours.
I would do it anyway. I've done them in
Dude, where in LA? Where are you in California?
I'm in San Diego.
San Diego. Okay. I have a
But does that
client.
answer your question?
Yeah.
Neil,
Yeah,
does that
answer.
answer your question? I'm sorry to speak
no, I
over
mean
you.
that's really interesting. But I get it. But it's interesting. Take your omegas, take your omegas. They always say, but they don't
For years.
educate us. They don't educate us on that.
And when I was at Nordic, we used to fight the fish oil wars. Cod liver oil is better than fish oil. Krill oil is better than green lip mussel oil. Udo's oil is better. And you know what stopped the entire thing and why Dr. Lewis and I won for Nordic Naturals? We told everybody the tissue is the issue. Okay? I don't care what you think. Would you guess whether or not you had an STD or your blood pressure was in the right range? See, Mike, I get people's attention like that. Oh, I'm negative, so I'm not going to test anybody else. I mean, we're going to look back on this time of listening to social media influencers telling you to take something, and we're going to reflect on that about how stupid and gullible we were. Because if you don't know your vitamin D levels, you don't know if you're getting enough. If you don't know your A1C long-term blood sugar, you have no idea. Our gut health test that we just put out, we can empower people. I love kitchen table medicine. I hope that resonates with your audience. Test at your kitchen table, get it sent to your front door. People like Dr. Mark Hyman, concierge medicine, functional testing, we're just disrupting that entire expensive party, bringing it directly to the consumer and making it cheap, inexpensive.
People need to know that it's available for them to test. And, you know, if somebody wants to have their whole spectrum of all the vitamins and stuff they need to have in their body, SpectraCell's a company that offers a test, and any doctor can order that for them. They can do tests like that. There are tests available, but this is available, you know, straight from Zeno. You just prick your finger, a couple of drops of blood,
it's there,
and you're done. You know, so it's not that we're just trying to hype something up here. This is the cutting edge of where things are going, where you're testing before you supplement for anything. You need to know. I remember when I battled sarcoidosis and dealing with that. I had to monitor my vitamin D levels because those little granulomas that sarcoid produces were hyperproducing vitamin D. I was inflamed out the wazoo, but there was natural solutions that my medical practitioner didn't know. And I'm telling you that if you're just listening to your doctor, and most of the time you're going there for sickness, you're not going there for wellness. you need to really dive deep into these things. And we'll talk some more on another program. I think we're out of time, aren't we?
Yeah, we definitely are. But it's great information. We're going to have the links in the bottom, okay? But ultimately, we're going to be reaching out to you. Trust me. There's some sort of way you're going to hear from us, especially if you're a healthcare practitioner. Because the bottom line is Mike Crook has the solution in multiple areas, and this is one of them. And that's why you got to keep listening to the Mike Crook show, is because you're going to hear about things and say, I never knew that this could be. I never knew this couldn't happen. I never knew I could not have as much, be able to decrease my pain. I never knew that I can improve my brain health. I can live longer, all those things. And you're not listening to some infomercial on a radio show with somebody selling something that's been proven doesn't work. So that's the difference. So go again and check us out. Like and subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to the Neil Haley Show, hit me up. I'm here for you. And I appreciate it, guys. Thanks again. And Mike, Dr. Michael, where can we purchase your book? Amazon and everything?
Yeah, When Brains Collide on Amazon, and hopefully in the next couple months I'll be coming out with a follow-up that I'm gonna name When Brains Decline. So, but Amazon for When Brains Collide.
Is it audio? Is it audiobook too?
Say that again?
Audiobook.
Is it audio version as well?
Well, unfortunately, I never got around to doing that.
There is a way. There's a really easy way, but it's just a way for people to decide to maybe buy that. So, okay, Stuart, you sharing screen? Okay.
Awesome. I just want everyone to see the title of the commanding officer's book.
All right, fantastic. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Mike Crook Show. Guys, take care. One.